It's the Smart Driving Cars podcast. We appreciate you spending time with us. This edition is made possible by CARTS, the Corporation for Automated Road Transportation Safety, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to safe and high-quality mobility for all. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alain Kornhauser. Hi, Alain.
Hey, good afternoon, Fred.
And we hope you're healing well. You've had a little procedure done that people might notice.
But whatever, they're trying to get me, but they're not gonna.
Absolutely. And with us today from GM is Super Cruise Assistant Program Engineering Manager, Jonathan Vitale. Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, Fred. Thanks for having me on.
Great to see you,
Jonathan.
It has been,
thanks, Alan.
I think, 5 years since GM first released Super Cruise to the public on the 2018 Cadillac CT6. You've come quite a distance since then, literally. So give us the overview of what Super Cruise is today.
Sure. So Super Cruise is the first true hands-free driving, automated driving technology that GM has launched and will be launching on 22 vehicles by the end of 23. What makes us truly hands-free, though, is our driver monitoring system and our LiDAR precision maps. So the driver monitoring system allows us to make sure that the driver is always engaged, but not requiring them to check in on the wheel with their hands. So this really is what sets Super Cruise apart from some of the other technologies that are out there.
And you've announced that Super Cruise is available now on certain models of the 2023 Chevy Tahoe, the Chevy Suburban, the Cadillac Escalade, and the GMC Yukon. And what you're saying is that this is going to work its way all the way down or pretty far down the lineup?
That's correct. We really want to make sure that we get Super Cruise into more of our customers' hands. And by doing that, we're going to make it more available on more vehicles. So what's cool about these vehicles that you highlighted those are the first vehicles that will have our latest map expansion. So we'll be expanding from 200,000 to over 400,000 of compatible roads, which is a huge feat, and this really expands Super Cruise across the country.
And the driver experience with this, the screen is going to tell the driver when they can let go of the wheel, or how does this work?
Right. So what you'll have is when Super Cruise is activated or turned on, so you want to make sure your adaptive cruise is turned on. And once you're on a Super Cruise enabled roadway, you'll get a white icon on the dash that looks kind of like a steering wheel. Once you see that white icon, you know you're on a Super Cruise enabled road, and then you're able to engage the system. So when you press the button to engage, if your adaptive cruise control isn't already set, it'll set at the current speed. You'll get a green or maybe blue bar to start once you're in control of the vehicle, and then it'll turn to green once the system is taken over and you can let go of the wheel. And then we indicate to the driver the state of the system by different colors on the steering wheel. So the blue is an override state where the driver has taken control of the wheel to either change lanes or what may have you, any scenario like that. Green means the system is active, and then red means that the driver needs to regain control of the vehicle.
Alan, I know you've got plenty of questions here. Come on and jump in.
Yeah, well, I have some detail. I always thought that your implementation of the lighting on top of the steering wheel was a very good one, because that is really within the field of view. Sometimes where these icons appear down there, it requires you to really look down even farther. I'm sort of surprised you don't just use that thing for almost everything, when it's available, when it's not available, and so on and so forth. What led you to put in a different icon as opposed to just using that one? Can you give us a little hint on that?
Well, I think we really wanted to make sure that the driver was always aware of the state of the system. So we really wanted to make sure that, it wasn't something that could be missed, like you mentioned, one of the icons on the IPC or one of those things. So we always wanted to make sure that, the driver knew when the system was operating properly or when the driver needed to regain control of the vehicle for any reason. So that there's a lot of other details behind it that I'm not going to get into here, but that's really the main reason for that.
Yeah, and that's really why the highlighting on that. If I could ask you maybe another question, Uh, Everybody talks about hands-free. Why don't they talk about feet-free?
That's a great question. I don't know. That's a very good point.
Ask somebody that, because to me, what they really do is allow you to be feet-free. Okay, I mean, you know, the key thing that it does is it maintains your speed, controls the accelerator and the brake, which is your feet, not your hands. Okay, and yeah, and the hands, I don't know, you know, it depends which philosophy you want to use to do the collision avoidance stuff. You know, turning the steering wheel is not really necessarily a good idea. Why? Because you can flip the car. Hitting the brake is absolutely, many times, a very good idea. And again, it has to do with the feet. And so maybe this is just my issue with the whole marketing of some of these things. What I like about the system that I have is that I don't have to sit there and watch the speedometer to not get a ticket, and I don't have to sit there and play with my feet, or use the common driving method, which is constant depression of the accelerator. So when you're on the Pennsylvania Turnpike going up and which does all kinds of things for sustainability, flow of vehicles, and never maybe that's too much to put out there to the general public, and we shouldn't talk about it. But
right.
But I think the reason why I mention it is because you guys have done a really fantastic job of course, with this original system, doing the eye tracker to make sure people are paying attention, because you have to pay attention with these things. And if they don't, I tell my students that you actually move the car over the side of the road, and then you put a dunce cap on the person, and you say you won't let them turn it back on until they get a note from their mother saying they'll behave or something. I mean, I'd suggest you do that, but anyway, with it, people should not be misbehaving and using these things is the key. And one of the things that they do is keep you from misbehaving, because it keep you from running up and tailgating me, and fundamentally doing that and doing it well. And it's nice to see that you put it out to more vehicles. How successful has it been in the marketplace? Can you shed any light on that? I mean, what's been the real reaction on the CT6? It seemed to me from the outside that it took you a while to roll it out to the other cars. When I think, at least on the technical side, everybody was saying, including me, that it is a really good system. So you have can you shed any light?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we've been analyzing the customer feedback since the system has been in the field for a few years now. And really the consensus is, a lot of people ask, well, what's the point if I still have to stay engaged? What is really the advantage? But a lot of people say that, the strain of driving is really removed from that. And that's something that I can attest to when my parents live 6 hours away from me. So any chance that I have to drive a Super Cruise vehicle to, use one of those to go see them, it's awesome, because I can hop in on a Friday night, after work where you're already stressed out, and then drive all the way up there and almost feel re-energized. So that's been the feedback that, we've gotten from customers, and that I can say personally I felt. But then also we've done a little, bit more digging, and we found that our customers, really, when they're going to buy their next vehicle, many of them say that they wouldn't consider another vehicle without Super Cruise on it. So that's really great there. I think once more customers experience it, they're realizing the advantage of, this driver assistance technology.
Well, I certainly can concur on that, because in my use of it, it really does. It reduces the stress enormously. It doesn't put you to sleep. Right. It doesn't do that. And I actually like the fact that it leads me around a turn, even if I leave my hands on the wheel. And that I don't think it's making me lazy. At least I've spend a lot of time thinking about that while
Right.
while in these cars, as if that's what it's doing to me. But it's not. And in terms of, to me, it seems an absolute necessity. I sort of like cruise control. I call it stupid cruise control that only affected the accelerator and not the brake. And then putting the brake onto it, and then putting all the other things that you put on top of it, along with the lane centering, really makes driving a heck of a lot easier.
Yeah.
Is that what it's about? More about the comfort than the safety aspect? How do you see it, Jonathan?
Yeah, absolutely. So, from our perspective, this is a driver assistance technology. So we want to, make the driver more comfortable. Super Cruise, we do not market as a safety feature. It's purely driver assistance.
But are you leaving something on the table? I'm wondering if you really collect the data of, crashes of Cadillacs with and without in the same locations, under the same conditions and so on, over the same stretches of highway. And I don't know, maybe we haven't accumulated enough of that. There's got to be a safety improvement on this, simply because you're not running up onto people. I mean, just that piece of it, and the lane centering where you engaged at, it works. I mean,
Right.
that's why it turns red. Where you don't have, where it doesn't work, right?
Right.
So it's
Absolutely.
got to have safety implications on that. Now, you think maybe the misuse kind of overwhelms that? I mean, what would overwhelm
what have you
the
learned
safety?
about
What
I
have
don't
you
know what you
learned
can
about
share about
that?
driver behavior?
Yeah. That's something that we're definitely looking at, and we're collecting the data and, trying to understand that. But I think right now, our stance is that this is purely a driver assistance technology, but it is, we would be foolish not to look into that information to see if we are doing anything to, prevent crashes. But right now, this is really just a driver assistance technology, but it's data that we are looking into.
Yeah, well, it's good that you're promoting it that way and not overstating it with respect to the safety. And of course, some of us, I know you won't say, but I'll say safety doesn't sell. Otherwise, everybody would be driving Volvos for the last 25 years. But never mind. I mean, that's sort of a, one-liner that I use. It entertains the students or something like that. It's about
But
that.
you do know how often this system has had to, I guess, for want of a better word, disengage, tell people you're not behaving well, and it's turning off.
Right. Well, there's a multitude of reasons why the system would disengage. You're coming up to a traffic light on one of the roads that turns from a highway into more of a surface street. So there's not a correlation just between disengagements, and driver misbehavior, but it is something that we can, if we look deep into the data, we can make those correlations. But it's not something that we see a lot of.
Our view on this is that you shouldn't tolerate any driver misbehavior on this, and as I'd like to sort of put on the lighter tone, really ask for a note from their mother if they misbehave, before you're allowed to turn back on. I mean, these systems cannot be thought of as, hey, I can hop in the back seat or hop over there or do any of those cute things that people make a TikTok video on, and who knows what. I mean, that's crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And we should, none of that should be tolerated. I mean, none of that.
What are the biggest challenges, Jonathan, that you and your team there have been able to tackle, and the ones still facing you? What are the biggest nuts to crack, do you think?
Since our system has been out there, I think it's been working very well. I think some of the things providing some of these enhancements to the system, we're always working to develop the system and make, things more available to the driver. So things like, we saw what was the next need after we launched Super Cruise. So then we started looking at things like lane change on demand and automatic lane change. So this is now Alan, like you were mentioning, the up and down of the speed. Well, if you're following a vehicle that is going much slower than you'd like, we will automatically change lanes when it's available if you have that version of Super Cruise. So we're just looking at, where can we go next with this technology to give our customers, a better driving experience. I think that's really the biggest thing that we're working on.
Does it lead to incrementally to eventually to a real self-driving kind of vehicle? Is that what the goal is here to some extent?
Not with Super Cruise per se. We definitely know the limitations of that system. And I think you may have seen in the news, which I wish I could talk about more, but I don't have a lot of experience with Ultra Cruise. So that's our next step, where we're going to be operating in 95% of scenarios. And then, of course, we know what Cruise is working on in San Francisco, with some of those self-driving taxis and those things. So, I definitely think they're building blocks, but they are separate systems. We never want to claim that Super Cruise is going to do anything more than what it was designed to do, which is, very specific scenarios where the system can operate.
Well, for whatever it matters, I personally want to applaud you for doing that and not trying to blend the whole thing in and try to whatever. And because all that does is leads to misbehavior in the use of the system. And it won't be misbehavior by many, it'll be misbehavior by a few, but a few misbehaving ruin it for everybody. And so, I mean, and then I think that's one of the things you've done really well with the whole Super Cruise. I wish you would have rolled it out to more models quicker. And CT6 with, I mean, there are just a few of them out there, but now you are doing that, and I think it's an enormous improvement in the value of the vehicle and trying to get from A to B and leave it at that, because there's enormous benefit, and I think you'll be very happy on a corporate wise basis, because people are coming into the showrooms and saying, I want this stuff. And the car dealers, I think, are saying, hey, thanks for putting it on there.
What goes into the determination of which roads this is available on? Because you're growing it now to 400,000 miles of roads?
Yeah, over 400,000 miles. So there's definitely a lot of consideration. Basically, we're started on mainly interstates, divided highways, closed access freeways, and now we have moved to more non-divided roads, so more of the rural highways that you'll see. So there's many highways that are available, to use the system on now. So not just
how do you grow it? How do you determine, okay, this road is going to get added now? What are you looking at?
So there's many factors involved in that, and I don't know all the ins and outs, but I will say that this is part of of curvatures of the road, the amount of traffic lights that are on that road as well, because the system doesn't go through intersections. We hand back control to the driver, so we want to make sure that the driver isn't that we're just keep handing the system back. So we're trying to be smart about what roads we open this up on. So more of the rural, where we have better availability of the system. So that's really kind of the main things that go into it, and then where we can do the LiDAR scanning of the roads.
So a question that maybe I should know the answer to this. To what extent have you sort of rolled this in with basically the system that communicates with the driver and allows the driver to report crashes and so on?
Yeah, so you're referring to the OnStar system?
To the OnStar system,
right?
Or
yeah.
Do you have thoughts of integrating it with OnStar? Does this fit with OnStar? To me, it would seem like it would fit with OnStar, but
no, we are definitely absolutely integrated, and this is what you were mentioning earlier, Alan. The note home to mom. Not that that's what OnStar is, but if you let the system escalate. So we have different escalations once we realize the driver's not engaged. So those 3 escalations, once you get to the 3rd escalation, that's when we're stopping the vehicle, and then we're making that call to OnStar because we think something is wrong. We want to make sure that the driver's not incapacitated or anything like that. And if they are, we're calling OnStar to get them the help that they need. So
to what extent are you using OnStar to understand how people are using it, or do you think that's an invasion of privacy, or that's too much? I mean, there's a difficulty here because you don't want to invade privacy. You don't, but your customers, it'd be nice to be able to establish a relationship with them. I found that, I had a company for whatever. I've found that the customers wanted to help. Maybe not all of them, but a substantial number of them want to help. They like the systems, and they'd like to help. And to what extent you're looking to engage the customers and helping you improve this.
So as for the data that we are that we collect from customers, it's everything that we explain in the terms and conditions when they're signing up for OnStar. So there is some information we collect to make sure that our system is operating safely, and that there's things that we can do to improve the system based on that data. So it's definitely something that we want to make sure that it's not a invasion of privacy or anything like that, collecting of images or anything crazy.
Right.
We want to make sure that it's a relationship that we want to make sure that the system's operating as intended, and that we can make the improvements that are available.
Well, it just seems from the outside, that integrating those two a little bit to take advantage of those and help those who want to help is a way to understand and make this better. I mean, part of the challenge in all of this is that we don't know what we don't know, and sitting there trying to guess about it has its challenges. I mean, we all try to do the best job we can, but all that can be very, very helpful, and as an complete opt-in sort of thing, and upfront, and not written in very real fine print, but out there having both you and your customer understand what the relationship here is, and it can be helpful to both of you and going forward. And at least that's the way I found those things to be. I'm only one data point here, so whatever.
Right.
Jonathan, if I'm a driver and have this engaged, and I pick up my phone and look at the phone, start to text, what happens? What's going to happen?
Right. So if our driver monitoring system detects that your gaze is going away for too long, at your phone, like you mentioned, we'll flash the bar that Alan was mentioning. We'll flash the red light bar with the red indication to say, hey, we realize that your gaze is not on the road. Take back control of the vehicle, and or fix your gaze back on the road, and then you can continue to use Super Cruise. So we don't disengage right away. But if we do detect that the driver's still looking away at their phone while we're flashing those red lights, we'll do a secondary alert, which buzzes the seat and disengages the system, buzzes the seat, or a voice or a beep will come on. And then that'll let them know, hey, the driver know, we're disengaging the system. You need to regain control because you were not paying attention for an extended period of time. And then when they go to re-engage the system, we let them know on the message, that's why the system disengaged. So hopefully they correct that action, and they don't continue to do those types of things that aren't, necessarily safe for the operation.
And I would have to turn the car off and then back on for me to be able to use it, or what's the process?
No. So after the first alert, we let the driver go back to normal operation. But if they continue to do it, then you will be locked out of Super Cruise for an extended period of time. Kind of like Alan was mentioning that note from mommy.
I love it. I love it. Well, I mean, it's what are you going to do? I mean, my goodness, this is not just endangering the person and the misuse; they're endangering us, because they might hit us. I mean, come on, cut it out. There's really way too much, misbehavior going on the roadway, done by very few people, but that's the problem. When we're all behaving and we're all driving, whatever, we're really good. We really don't crash. Your cars, that you don't lose the wheel and all of a sudden go off the road. I mean, these things are really good things. But when we go off the rails, whew, and I love it. I love it. Do it more. I mean,
Well, we want to congratulate you and the team there and General Motors for the innovations and the responsible way that you're bringing them to market.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, the smart deployment is something that we really pride ourselves on.
Yeah, you should, because you really have done it well, and you've done it well in the whole process. And congratulations for keeping it going, and congratulations for everybody else in General Motors realizing that it should be on some more cars. And of course, to the dealers who I guess are selling it or saying, hey, put it on more cars because we'll sell more cars. I mean, everybody's happy about this. Yeah. So congratulations on it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah,
where should people turn to for more info, Jonathan?
Yeah, if you can check out the brand website, so Cadillac.com, Chevrolet.com, and GMC.com. There's a whole section on Super Cruise for each of those brands, and it'll tell you exactly which models it'll be available on coming up. And then if there's any more models that will be available, it'll be posted there as well.
It's going to go on the Corvette. I guess you can't say, huh? I don't know. Why not? I mean, what do you think? Corvette drivers don't need a little help? I mean, what? Come on, cut it out. You can think about it, huh?
We're always looking to expand our systems. That's all.
No, I mean, it'd be great in a Corvette. I mean, you can always turn it off and not use it. I mean, but every once in a while, don't you want to cruise in one of those things and just relax? Anyway,
Jonathan Vitale, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Oh,
thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep, it was a pleasure. Thank you for the time. Thank you very much.
Alan, turning to some headlines. With Election Day in the rear view mirror, there are hopes to move ahead with the Moves project in Trenton now.
Yes, I mean, we have, I would say, all of our ducks in line. We had most of our ducks in line, which is the truth. We've had the mayor has certainly been the enthusiastic supporter. We needed a little bit of help with respect to town council, and I think we got that in the election. The mayor was re-elected by an enormous margin. So we have him reelected. We have town council now. We should be ready to rock and roll and get the project moving. We've done a lot of planning. It's not that we've been sitting on our hands. We've done a lot of community engagement. We've continued to put together all the stakeholders to at least make this a success. What we of course need is a technology company who says, yes, maybe we want to take advantage or try to take advantage of the affordability of this mobility option and bring it to provide safe, equitable, affordable, sustainable, high quality mobility to Trentonians as a start to bringing it out throughout Mercer County and then replicating it throughout New Jersey. And I was talking just a few minutes ago to Jeff Brandis, who's putting together the Florida AV conference on the 14th through the 16th of December, and we'll be talking it up in Florida also.
So a lot going on, and for those who aren't aware, this is a project that eventually will provide driverless mobility, make it affordable.
Well, that's the objective. If it requires a driver, we've already had it, that mobility, for 100 years, and it's done what it could do. The real opportunity with driverless is that at least it makes a certain kind of mobility very affordable. because only a certain number of people can afford to pay a chauffeur, a driver, even if they are for Uber and Lyft. The labor portion of providing mobility is expensive when somebody is taking you from A to B and you have to pay them. But in fact, that's not the real expense of the labor. If you look at the way we use our own cars, for which we don't charge ourselves for the high quality mobility that those cars provide, because we drive them ourselves. And as far as we're concerned with that, we're free. It doesn't cost us anything. But when somebody has to do it for us, maybe there are a few who are willing to do it for free. Not very often. They deserve to be paid. It's work. It's real work, and they deserve to earn a living wage. But it's not just the time when you're going from A to B. It's the time those folks are waiting around until you're ready to go. And when you finally get to B, the time that they're waiting around to either take somebody else or to take you back home. So it turns out that the waiting around times, which they deserve to be paid, is really substantial. Now you can say, well, the system can be so efficient that somebody's ready to go when somebody else is ready to go, and everything is, and it perfectly fits in. Unfortunately, that's not the way transportation works. One of the very interesting things about transportation is its demand throughout the day goes up and down. If it was just flat across, if everybody was just going between two places, trivial, absolutely trivial. And you can make it extremely inexpensive. And you can put everybody in a bus. And the bus driver can just be driving everybody back and forth. And the amount that anybody would have to put into the hat so that the bus driver has a good life and can feed his or her family, not very much. But that's not the way we live. Now, some, futurists might say, hey, that's the way we should live. Let's put ourselves all in a nice linear city across Saudi Arabia, and just have some whizzing back and forth. Great. But that thing's going to have to stop. Even that linear city isn't really good, because not everybody's going between the two endpoints. They're going da. So that doesn't even work. Now, when you look at a spatially distributed city, town, county, you name it, that's not two-dimensional. You require a network type solution, not a linear solution. And that network type solution at times is heavily utilized. Other times it's nobody's showing up. And that's what it has to serve. That's what makes it challenging. That's why in the end, we've all gone out, and those of us that could afford it, gone out and bought our own cars and made it inexpensive. How? By not paying ourselves for when we drive it or when we wait for it. At least perceptually, it's very inexpensive to us. And we can let it sit and wait for us. They've given us so much deals at, 0, 2% interest rates, who knows what, stretch it out for 8 years. so that we can just let it sit around like a little puppy dog, as I like to say, and wait and wait, and it not get us all upset. Not saying, hey, neighbor, can you use my car now? Well, no, they want to go same time I want to go. They don't want to use my car. They want to use it when I want to use it. Doesn't work. That's what makes this all so challenging. But all of a sudden, the magic is if we're not going to have this thing do the driving, and we can make as many of those things as we make of these things, and it's all Moore's law-ish. With skill, this thing ends up costing almost nothing. That's why my phone can sit around. I mean, how many calls do I make on my phone during the day? Rest of the time, it sits around and waits for me. Please use me. And they've made this so darn inexpensive that I've decided to buy it, at least because I can afford it. Some people, not so much. It is expensive to them. So we have to make it even cheaper. But that's the challenge, and that's the opportunity we have, and that's what we want to be able to demonstrate in Trenton, to have vehicles sitting around waiting for them to be used in strategic locations, easily for people to get to. Again, just the way we've ended up using elevators in tall buildings. Except now we have a network problem, not a linear problem. And therefore, they have to go between here and here and here and here and here and here and here. But no problem writing the code to do that. That's what we want to demonstrate.
A lot to look forward to with that.
A lot to look
obviously.
forward to.
Moving on, other headlines. LiDAR makers Ouster and Velodyne have agreed to merge. And I guess right now the economy's not so great for a lot of these companies out there, and they're looking to make deals.
Well, yeah, I think that, there's some consolidation out there, some advances this way, that way, merge it together and bring those advances together, and LiDAR manufacturers have been hoping that, all the cars that we buy at the car dealers will have LiDAR on them. Maybe. Maybe. And the advances in cameras and image processing, I don't know. I don't know whether or not we need LiDAR.
But it's not bad. It's not bad to have competing technologies.
Absolutely not. And it's good to have them out there, and maybe they can put all that stuff together and they will become very inexpensive and so on and so forth. And yes, absolutely. One does not want to have just one trick in one's bag. One would like to have a couple of them. And, there are various people on various sides of that. Certainly the LiDAR is usable in a lot of places. And so there is a market for them. And it's good and happy for them to get together. And they're two of the really good ones out there, and wish them all the best.
The Verge has run a piece headlined Waymo's driverless taxis keep making incremental progress while others flounder.
Yes, they are making incremental progress. The question is there's been so much investment in all this technology. Incremental progress may or may not do it. They can stay alive for a while longer. Others, need to either scale way back such that incremental progress delivers the revenue so that you can stay alive, and with incremental amounts of revenue. Others, as we saw with Ford Argo, time to throw in the Ford Argo.ai, invested in by Ford and VW, decided to throw in the towel early.
And as you've talked about before, there is an opportunity to really use the technology to change things dramatically.
Yeah, I think, as was mentioned by Ford, there's still the opportunity for this technology to substantially improve what we've been calling safe driving cars, which is to put technology in the cars to basically watch out. And in case we do the wrong thing, take over the operation of the car and do the right thing. I mean, that's what our analog brakes do for us. I push the pedal too hard, it applies it properly so that I deal with the coefficient of static friction rather than the coefficient of sliding friction. And therefore I can maintain control of the car better. Similarly with electronic stability control. I go around a turn too fast and start losing my rear end. It senses it. It takes over. It keeps me from spinning out. These are technologies that are basically running all the time in cars. Most of the time they have nothing to do because we're not doing anything wrong. And once we start doing something wrong, they jump in and say, Fred, move out of the way. I can do this for you. They don't say that. They just do it. We need more of that. We need more of that. We talked last time about, the wonderful simulations that Waymo has done with their simulations of the operation of their driverless car, the Waymo driver, in which, because it has 360 vision and LiDAR, it could sense the approach of a car going 107 miles an hour and anticipate that it's going to run the red light. And instead of continuing its unprotected left turn, just hit the brakes a little bit and let the car zoom by. That thing should be in my car all the time. In case as I'm turning left, I'm not looking over here, but it is. Why not, put that technology in the cars that we buy? More of that. Why do the cars that we buy allow me to tailgate that close? Shouldn't allow it. Back off, Alan. You're too close. And it shouldn't also allow somebody else to, because the gap now between me and the guy or gal in front of me is too great. Cut in front of me.
Well, as you said before, Alan, the technology is there to do so much of that today.
Absolutely. It can do it. And it can be brought into these systems. And I think we'd all be much happier, I think. And it seems like, the car dealers will sell it. And customers will buy it. So let's get that out of it. For those of us that go out and continue to buy cars because we can afford it.
Moving on from the Smart Driving Cars newsletter, there's a new CEO at TuSimple after the old boss was fired following a probe into ties to a Chinese firm.
Yeah, well, what can one say? Yes. Okay. I mean, I don't want to, I guess I'd rather not comment. I mean, TuSimple has a challenge. I think they're trying to set up a logistics network so that they have some opportunity for revenue short of being able to put driverless trucks out there. But if we're having our challenges, our easy go to putting driverless cars in some cities and some urban neighborhoods, putting driverless trucks on our freeways. Maybe it's okay out there on Interstate 80 in the middle of nowhere, or on, some middle of nowhere Texas interstates, maybe. New Jersey Turnpike, I don't know.
And finally, Alan, Tesla and Zoom have announced that the video conferencing app will be coming to Tesla vehicles. My assumption is only while parked, very much like the other entertainment functions and games in a Tesla.
Yeah, they should say that explicitly. It has to be that way. It has to be. I mean, they're not that stupid, okay? And you can put a lot of things in a Tesla. I mean, you can make it into your entertainment center, your living room, your whatever. You can camp in it, apparently, right, Fred? I mean, it has electricity at night, or air conditioned,
climate control.
Climate control.
Even a dog mode for
even a dog mode. But that's all for when that thing is in park.
Right.
Okay. It has to be in park. The games, all that stuff, the playing around with it's nothing new. I mean, we've been able to bring our laptops into our cars, right? And the only convenient piece is that we needed one of those converters to be able to go from the 12-volt power to whatever the heck we need for our laptop to charge it. I mean, we were there, right, Fred? We were running.
You were there with that Toshiba libretto on the dashboard. How many years ago, Alan?
The libretto on the dashboard, 1997, Fred, maybe even 96. All right. So we've been there. We can do that. And now the convenient thing is that you have this whole, your whole floor of your car is now your battery pack. Okay. Forget about going 300 miles, man. We can watch, 4K TV, and so on and so forth while we're parked. So it's wonderful. Okay. But not when you're driving. Don't even think about it. Don't think about it.
Well, we want to thank our guest, Jonathan Vitale from GM Super Cruise. Thank you also to CARTS, the Corporation for Automated Road Transportation Safety, for helping to make this podcast possible. CARTS is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to safe and high-quality mobility for all. You can find us at smartdrivingcar.com, on Anchor FM, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon, Apple, Google, Spreaker, wherever you get your podcasts from. You can get smart speakers to play us too. You can find my tech reports at techstination.com. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Alain Kornhauser. Thank you for listening or watching, and please stay safe.
Thank you.